Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the semi-finals of the new In Chess Classic. It's day number 2. Hikaru Nakamura is up 1-0 against Shakhriyar Mamedyarev, and Magnus Carlsen and Levan Aranyan are all tied after yesterday's match. I actually am recording a separate intro for this video, because I recorded a 30-minute video already, only to discover that my microphone had completely broken prior to recording, and I sound like I inhaled some sort of crazy gas. And it's not so bad as much as it is hilarious, so I decided to post that entire video in that voice because I am a man of the people, and I wish to entertain you while also giving you good content. So this entire video will feature me at a significantly lower octave, and if you hate it, I promise I will never do it again.
It's been a long day for me. I didn't do commentary today, but I got my second dose of the COVID shot. I've got 4 hours since that happened, so no side effects yet, but I expect them soon. But we've got plenty of energy, so let's have a nice and energetic recap. So, first things first, Magnus Carlsen and Levan drew their first 2 games. It's 1-1. We're kicking things off in game number 3. Levan's got the white pieces. He plays the move d4, knight f6, knight f3, and what do you know, the London. I don't know what's going on, but these guys are inspired. They've been playing a lot of this recently. And Magnus has messed around with different stuff. He went b6 yesterday. Today he goes e6, bishop d6, and b6. So a setup with the bishop on d6 and the pawn on b6, with the intention to just get a very solid position. But what's interesting is that you'll notice that he delayed the movement of this bishop. Pay attention. If the bishop goes to d3, bishop a6. So you wait for white to develop the bishop, and then you trade it. And that bishop will be useful in many attacks on the side of the board. Without it, white has a completely normal position anyway, but some of the ideas are lost, and now Magnus just plays c5, taking the center. Queen to a4, which is an exquisite move. I don't fully understand it. In fact, a move later, Levan just traded the queen off. Okay, now we have a queenless position. The only imbalance here is the fact that this pawn is on d3. If this was a c3 pawn, the structure for both sides would be identical. So when you have a position with very minor imbalance, it's going to really come down to these pieces and the pawn structure. And as you can see, already the players begin to commit certain pawns to certain squares. Like b5 is completely under white's control. I would not be surprised if later in the game we got knight b1, knight c3, knight b5. Knight b5, if possible. Black would like to land the same situation on b4. And potentially, knight to knight here would be a trade. So that's how you play an equal position. Oh, look at that, knight to b8. So Magnus does exactly that and activates the knight to c6, king to f1. Levan's just trying to bring his king to the middle. Can't be a bad thing in the endgame. Plus, we all know king e2 is always good. A little bomb cloud action. And Magnus goes h5. Again, it's all a matter of pawn play and imbalance of piece play. And what's funny is that like 6 moves ago, if you go back to move 12, okay, like this position, the evaluation of this position is 0.02, which is basically equal, minus 0.02, like computer jumps up and down. But if you go 6 moves into the future after this move h5, it's -1. So Levan did not coordinate his pieces right. He created a weakness. The pieces should not be where they are. And black's pieces have a lot more prospects. And with this move h4 committing another pawn forward, Magnus now plays f6 and he's ready to expand in the center. Magnus has just in a matter of moves outmaneuvered Levan and now just stands clearly better. And even this king being brought to the middle to support these pawns is better than what white is trying to do. Here Levan takes on c5 and Magnus delays the recapture and takes dominant control of the center. This move simultaneously blocks out the bishop and the knight from entering. So Magnus is making progress. We can expect king e6. Yeah, there you go. Kings are very important in the endgame. And now Levan plays f4, trying to chip away at the center a little bit. Magnus keeps it all together. And remember that when you do this, when you do f4, f takes e5, this is isolated now. This pawn's just in the line of sight of this bishop. The f-file is open for black. Still, white is hanging on to a 1-pawn advantage, but the pawn can't move. And Magnus is just able to just plant that rook. Look at this. That cross-board pressure, g4 potentially. And Levan just ends up giving him the pawn. Plays e4, now it's just Magnus's game. He's activated the rook, he's bringing his second rook to the party, all the meanwhile walking his king to the middle as the chief defender of the pawns. King d1, rook b5, takes another pawn. Again, Magnus sacked the pawn, damaged Levan's long-term positional kind of strength, and now is just going to go into the cashing out part of the game, where he's going, okay, he'll repeat once, he's not going to repeat again, and now he's going to trade. He's a pawn up, he activates his knight, and now the rook swings around. See, Magnus is going for the goodies. Right, rook swings around, knight jumps in, knight takes pawn. Completely winning position for black, and Magnus just very slowly, methodically ends up getting the rook for the 2 pieces. He's got to pass the pawn, make sure to give a check, take the bishop, and the game's over because after knight takes rook, it's actually not king takes. It's just a2. And Magnus's a pawn is the hero. There's nothing that you can do here. You can stop the pawn from becoming a queen, then I'll take. And I have another pawn, and my king's gonna win the rest of your pawns. The man just makes it look so easy. It's sometimes crazy when you think that his opponent is Levon. Like, that's nuts. It's just crazy to me sometimes. So Magnus wins with black in almost effortless fashion. Levon played, I'm a little bit perplexed the way Levon played this game, like queen a4 and trading the queens. I mean, just seemed very low risk and lackadaisical, for lack of a better word. And, you know, within 6 moves, Magnus just made a couple of strategic outposts and a couple of pawn pushes, and he was already better. It's not how easy he makes it look. Well, that takes us to the, to the 4th game of the match. Now Levon's got to win. You got to win with black. So what do you do when you got to win with black? First of all, you go Sicilian, and then you play a slightly offbeat line. Knight c6 is not the best line, but Magnus holds all the cards because he just has to do whatever. He has to wait for Levon to do something completely ridiculous. Case in point, g5. Now, oftentimes when your opponents, beginners, intermediate, and advanced, this is a concept for all of you. If you ever get into an opening and an opponent does some crazy, stupid stuff on the wings, right, like G and F pawn and H pawn pushes, as long as you're not blundering anything, striking back in the center, pawn to D4. The center is where the action happens, okay? That's the best bit of advice that you can get from this game. Doesn't matter. A lot of people think that just because they're retreating, they're conceding something. No, man. The knight can go back and then come forward again. This pawn can only go forward. This pawn's a bozo. It has no hindsight. It just belligerently runs forward, even if there's a cliff. It has to stand there. And as the center begins opening up, right, we have queen f6, Levon's trying to castle queenside. Magnus, very correctly here, plays a move punishing the fact that his opponent is still in the middle of the board. Pawn to e5. The idea being that after takes knight c4, there's no way to guard this. You have to castle, and if you castle, takes, it's bad news. None of your pieces are out. I'm gonna win g4. You can't let me take your bishop. So Levon chooses to move the bishop, but now check. Queen blocks, and Magnus is like, hey, I'm not the one that has to win the game. So if you're gonna trade queens with me, I'm more than happy. Now material is equal to, and well, the rest of the game is, Levon trying to take some risk, and yeah, Magnus brings all his pieces to coordinate, brings both his rooks to the center, and the second that there's a tactical opportunity, always look for checks. They might be the right move, because the rook is trapped. You say, no, it's not. Rook takes bishop. What are you talking about? Yeah, but then this is hanging, and this is hanging, so 2 of your bishops will hang. And so Levon just goes to e7, and Magnus just swaps off everything. Look at that. Look at that. Nice little simplification. Take the bishop, take the pawn, and that forces a big trade. Now you have a 2 pawns up in an opposite colored bishop endgame, and opposite colored bishop endgames could be draws, even if you have like extra pawns. Sometimes that's just how they go. But Magnus doesn't care. Magnus doesn't need to win this game. He has to not lose. And so he just brings his pawns up the board. Crazy. I mean, the man makes it look so simple sometimes. And here Levon just resigned. This position is losing. It's losing because, just for example, you'll outflank with your king. So for example, you can give like a check, king will move, king g5, and then you'll bring the king and the pawns together. Your bishop will stand and cover, and this king's just not in the right spot. So Magnus Carlsen takes care of business, and he wins his match 1.5 to half, becoming the first finalist in the new in chess classic. Now, we have another matchup, and this matchup yesterday went for Hikaru. Hikaru won 3-1 in the 4 rapid games, and one of the storylines of this match yesterday was this variation of the Nimso Indian. Now, it happened twice. The first game, Hikaru mixed something up on like move 15-16. The second game, he came back with something improved on move 15-16. They played the exact same moves, and then he ended up winning. So naturally, you put that aside, and you don't repeat the line, because obviously, like, you already know the guy has spent the entire night preparing it. So why would you go into a position that that person has spent hours looking at overnight? That just doesn't make any sense to me, right? Clearly you're going to change something up. Except they didn't, and they played the exact same thing. I don't get, why wouldn't you, bro, just go like D5, bro. Like, why? Pride? I don't, anyway, move 15, E5. Now, yesterday, our games proceeded rook C3, knight C6, but Schach takes with the knight. Okay, knight C6, obviously not a bad move. Queen to C. All right. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I know you guys like my channel. I know you're here to learn chess. You're here to laugh, learn, enjoy yourself, meme and dream. I don't know what Queen C1 does. All right, sometimes, like that move doesn't even, my computer doesn't even see that move. And then the more it starts thinking about it, the more it goes, oh yeah, you know, I kind of like that. Yeah, let me get some of that Queen C. Are you trying to get out of the pin? Like, I don't know. Anyway, Schach then proceeds to attack Hikaru's queen and plays bishop to b1. The idea of bishop to b1 is that he wants Hikaru to know that he knows that bishops can go backwards. Just, you know, always good to warn your opponent. Also, you're guarded, and this is just getting out of the way, right? So, and maybe queen c2 in some sort of mate in the future. So, bishop e6, rook b5, and Hikaru's got a choice. Does he go forward or back? What does he do? Well, one way is good and the other way is not. And he chooses queen c4, and that way is not good. Because now Schach can play bishop to a2 and make this trade and go here. And Shahryar is down a pawn, but his position's really annoying. Look at this. Because black commits to so many early pawn pushes in this system, you're never going to be fully safe, right? Rook e7, Hikaru's trying to trade, and Schach just brings the rook right back like, bro, I got a better position. Why would I trade pieces with you, right? Now queen g6, rook c1, queen e8, just very calm h3. Never know when your king will need a smoke break, give him a little balcony. And now queen a4. Now Levon also played queen a4 in the game earlier, but then he proceeded to trade the queen. So obviously we are not going to get a queen trade in this game, but we will get the gobbling of a pawn. And now knight to c3. This attacks the rook and threatens knight to e2. So rook goes out to b7. Knight comes into e2 check. King to h2. This rook can be taken two different ways. However, if you play knight takes here, I play bishop takes pawn, and again, we see the problems of your king. You just can't guard that. So, knight takes g3. Rook takes rook, knight f1 check, king g1, rook takes rook b8. Very important move, because if you play king takes, you get mated probably with some rook c1, king e2, and no, computer says this is just a draw. Computer says that the king is... the computer says that this is winning. This is oh. Well, computer, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about, so how about that? Anyway, rook b8 is apparently the same. I thought the other line was just losing. Turns out that even that's a draw. Takes, king takes f1. It is king and 4 pawns versus king and 4 pawns, and obviously both players have queens. The only thing that black has in this position that's bad is the pawn problems, right? You've got very split pawns, whereas white's just got a little boat of pawns here, half a pokeball, whatever you want to call it, and Schach is going to give all these little annoying checks to Hikaru, right? His king is out in the open, Schach's king is also out in the open, but Schach is playing this for a win, because again, all queen trades are good for, all queen trades are actually good for white, even though the computer is trying to tell me that this position is drawable. This position is really a draw? That's insane. This just doesn't look like a draw at all, like king b4, king d... Wow. It looks like you can outflank and then... Okay, well, look, turns out you can take the queen. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, computer... Like, for a human, it's scary. Computer's like, what is scary? I don't understand this, brother. I don't know why it sounds like, you know, Khabib, but... Anyway, queen c7, queen d7, still a draw, still a draw, still a draw, still a draw, and it's not a draw anymore. It's not a draw anymore because of this move. Black is in a bit of a zugzwang. Queen f7, queen a8. Queen g6, queen f8, king to e5. Oops. You cannot stop checkmate. Isn't that crazy? In queen and pawn endgames, pawn structure is everything. The fact that all of your pawns are so immobile and such targets, whereas white is everything is solid, every pawn is guarded. Now for black, every pawn is guarded for black, but the king's out in the open. Can't stop mate. And Shakhriyar grinds out a 61 move win to kick things off today. All right, so Hikaru's got to bounce back now, and he's got the white pieces. Starts with e4. We have a Ruy Lopez with bishop to b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6 castles. Very standard stuff. And here black usually chooses between bishop e7, d6 setup with a kind of more classical approach, or a more modern twist, which is to take on e4, and then when this move comes, you play b5, d5. You give away the pawn in the center. This is actually the line that Shakhriyar plays a lot, this position. I apologize for rubbing my nose, but it's allergy season in New York City, and it's awful. So bishop to e6. And the idea here is that black is potentially going to expand with a massive pawn wall, or just, you know, finish your development and castle. Excuse me. That might be the first time in the history of my YouTube channel I rub my nose. You just whisper, yep, I just wipe my nose with tissue. You just witness history. Congratulations. So we get exactly that. We just get bishop e7 in castles, f3, knight c5, going for this knight, with this knight to attack the bishop on b3. Bishop c2, knight d7, f4. Hikaru's position looks very nice. He's about to trap his bishop. This bishop is looking a little bit stuck. f5 by black. Okay. Well, obviously, chat. Wow, chat. I am all over the place. You're not chat. You're YouTube. This is not Twitch. Obviously, dearest viewers, en passant is possible. Now, I know 99% of you would just do this. In fact, the last time that I criticized you for the move en passant, you took it to Reddit Anarchy Chess. Now, I own that subreddit because I have the most viewed post of all time. So, you know, don't disrespect me in my own house. I'm trying to help you with your addiction. Stop en passanting everything. Knight d2, trying to develop, and knight f3, knight b6. Okay, great. Queen e2, queen c7, bishop f2. It's a maneuvering game. Both players trying to find their way through this kind of maze. What's going to happen with the pawns, and will Hikaru just start some sort of attack over here because he has more space? Ideally, you get rid of this bishop so that you can push the pawn forward. Okay, rook c8, rook c1, rook d8, rook d1. Fantastic. Both rooks have been brought. Pawn to g6. And now Hikaru plays queen e1. Obviously, the idea of queen e1 is to go queen f1, queen e2, queen e1, and make a little triangle. No, it's to go here and take. Now you've removed one of your opponent's best pieces on the board, and here it would have been very important for Hikaru to play the move b4. Because you fight for the dark squares. If black pushes, you play knight d4, you're positionally completely winning. You pressure this, pressure this, pressure this, h3, g4, queen g3, and you just expand. Your knight is a killer, this knight is a moron, and yeah. But Hikaru goes h4, and that allows Shock to strike back in the center and cause chaos. Hikaru plays h5, trying to break up the structure and make Shock damage his pawns. Shock doesn't oblige, h takes g6, and now king to g7. Using the pawn as an umbrella pawn. Now c takes d4, now Shock doesn't take back, he plays knight takes f4. Hikaru still up a pawn, plays queen 3 attacking the knight jumps back, queen f2. Idea being you've got knight h4 on the cards. So we have exactly that, rook f8, rook d2. Rook d2? What does this do? Not enough. You actually probably already went a bit awry here, astray, if you will. Knight h4 was still fine, but it's already kind of a difficult position. Like, again, because you can't just easily take this pawn. Black will go queen g5. And all of a sudden, Hikaru's attack actually turns out to be Shock's attack. Who's attacking who? Wait a minute. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, Shock. Hey, listen. I know I said a few things. I did a few things. We're all good, right? We're still friends, right? Shock? Oh, two hanging queens. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Shock, relax, May. Take a deep breath, man. You don't, oh, no. And now Shock is just winning. He's just got an extra knight. f4, and that's it. I mean, he's just coming in. He's coming in with all his pieces. There's nothing you can do. And right here, Hikaru just played queen d6 and resigned because, I mean, bishop c4 for starters is very bad news. And you just can't guard everything. And now Shakhriyar is up 2-0. Hikaru had a very good position. So Shock has completed 2 victories. It's not over. Because if Hikaru makes it 2-2, he wins. Because yesterday he won. That means that today would be a tie. All right, Hikaru. Let's go. Third game of the match. Here we go. Hikaru goes for G6. Plays the modern because you've got to play for a win. A C5, the sniper, looking for some DC3, DC5 in crazy position. And Shock just closes it down. That's what you got to do when you know your opponent's got to get wild with you. Sometimes it's good to get wild. In fact, if you're into that, you absolutely should get wild. It can be very fun. But Shock just says, I'm going to get my 2 bishops. I'm going to put my rook in the middle. I'm going to play principal chess, H3. Very slow, Hikaru. What you got for me, Hikaru? A5, Hikaru. Now you can't put your knight on B6, Hikaru. Knight to C7. I'm going to drop my bishop back, so you can't put it on B5, Hikaru. Rook B8, bishop D2. This move I can't really hype up. This move I don't understand that much. But obviously Black is looking for counterplay over here, and now we're ready. We're ready to jump in on the queen side and meet Black exactly there, C3, shutting it all down. What are you going to do? Black is going to have to take tremendous risk to play this position for a win, right? So Shock just plays it. Okay, there's E6. Okay, C4. Bring your knight to me. B4. Now I have a ton of space. You see, some people, you need to invite out multiple times. Hey, you want to come hang out? Nah, I'm good. Those people, they want to be at home. Some people just want to be left alone. Shakhriyar does not need multiple invitations. If you send Shakhriyar an invitation to get weird and wild, he will. He's going to do that. So B4, bishop C3 takes rook D8. Still, Hikaru can't really find a way out, right? And Shak just keeps applying this pressure. This bishop on the diagonal, pressure on C5, like his position, and finally, just takes. And takes. Because the knight has lost the guard. Takes. Queen, rook, bishop 5 versus queen, knight, rook 5. Now on the surface, he looks calm and ready to drop bombs, but he keeps on forgetting that despite having A and B, little bit of imbalance here, this bishop is much better than this knight, and my pawns are faster. The problem is I'm just too close to your king. It's going to take Black forever to try to activate and push the pawns. For example, if you play B5, I laugh at your face and take your horse. If you back the knight up, then I go E5. And again, if you play B5 now, I just go E6. I'm too quick, all right? That's the problem. Queen C5, but this endgame's just no good. Bishop B5, E6, and Hikaru just called it a day here and resigned. Because again, this is just not fast enough. And my man, Shakhriyar Mamedyarov, just won 3 games in a row. Bro, all right, admit it. I know you've been watching like 20-something minutes. When you clicked on this, you didn't expect that. You did not expect that. Now, it's 1-1. That's the score, it's 1-1. So this gets wiped, okay? The score is 1-1 now. Because Shakhriyar won the rapid portion. Which means, ladies and gentlemen, let me move the scoreboard over. Scoreboard was not designed for such long names. Which means the players have to play Blitz. Now, the first 2 games of Blitz were drawn, and they were not very exciting. So the good news for you is going directly to the Armageddon. The Armageddon means that White has 5 minutes. Black has 4 minutes. There is no bonus time. However, if the game ends in a draw, okay, Black wins. So Black has draw odds, but a minute less. Who chooses what color they get to play? Whoever is higher seeded in the preliminary stage. This is where the seeding is so important. At this level, most of these guys want to play Black in Armageddon because the ability to hold an equal position, despite a 1-minute time deficit, is everything. So Shah goes for a position that's the King's Indian attack. Why? Extremely imbalanced position. Remember, he's a minute up on Hikaru. Knight D2, Knight C6. Pawn to E4. And Hikaru correctly plays takes E5. Why is this correct? Symmetrical pawn structure. How is a guy going to create winning chances if the pawn structure is symmetrical? And now Hikaru adds something else, A5. I'm not just going to sit back and be solid. I'm going to go for something. I'm a big believer. Rook D1, Queen C8. Activate my bishop and pin you. Knight E3, Bishop C5. Go ahead. You could take this. You could say, go ahead, yes, invite an attack upon yourself. Yes, please do. Shock doesn't take, he goes back to D5. We have knight back to E8. That's an interesting move. And bishops just drop back to D6. Hikaru's trying to keep pieces on board. He's trying to make it difficult for Shakhriyar to find a clear plan. Because Shock has to win, he's going to have to take a risk. Queen C4, King H8. Rook D2, F6. Solidifying the center. Knight to h4, trying to outflank on the light squares. Knight to e7, offering a trade. All right, the first trade has occurred. 2 horses, dead. F in the chat for the horses. Queen. All right, hold on. What? What is okay? He's got a plan. His plan is to go h3, and then what's his plan? To go. But wait, he played his queen all the way out in the okay. The problem is that now b3 stops knight c4, but b3 is a hook. A hook in chess is a pawn that can be targeted to make forward progress in the position. Oftentimes targeted when there's a king there, but now Hikaru plays a4, and now it's not even that black is trying to play this position for equality. Black, after the following move, g5, is playing this position for a win. Black is better, and now black is up a pawn. Shockley's rook c2, knight d6. At this point, Hikaru is way closer on time than 1 minute. It's like a 10-second deficit. Rook c1, knight f5. Now, what do you do when you're up a pawn and your position's good? Simplify the right way, trade the right piece for the right piece, and try to make forward progress. Shakhriyar doesn't want to trade of knight for bishop, so we have rook to d8, rook e1, bishop c5. Activating the rook, activating the bishop. King moves out of the way. Which piece is not yet activated, ladies and gentlemen? If you said the queen, you are right. But what else? Rook to a2. Yeah, rook e2. Wait, where are you going? Wait, why? Well, that's because there was a tactic. Bishop takes g5, so he had to get out. Never too late to blunder everything, right? You know that better than anybody. Don't lie to yourself. Me too, though. Knight takes g5. Shakhriyar knows he has to play this for a win. He is sacrificing a piece to start an attack. Hikaru cool as a cucumber. Bishop to e7, simplifying for the cost of a pawn, but trading material. You cannot deliver mate if you don't have sufficient forces. Knight to g6, rook comes back, another attempt at simplification. Bishop comes back, and Hikaru just goes like this. Hikaru does the Yoel Romero, minus the explosive part. Well, he exploded earlier in the game, but and now he just brings his pieces in. Shak is desperately looking for something, but again, it's just not enough. He's got 3 attacking pieces versus 4 defending pieces. You know who wins? When 4 people try to fight 3 people? Well, Levy, it depends on the size and the strength and the professional strength. Yeah, I get it. Queen e2, rook d6. Shak is poking and prodding and poking and prodding, and he just sacrificed a lot of material, but he's just a rook down. And Hikaru converts this position by securing a trade of bishops and a trade of queens. And it was on this move that Shakhriyar Mamediyarov resigned the game, giving Hikaru the win in Armageddon after surviving an absolute disaster. Which means that our final match is Magnus Carlsen versus Hikaru Nakamura. These two played a wicked final that lasted a week straight. That happened last year. These two are clearly the 2 best players in this tour. When it comes to seeding, they constantly are the 1st and 2nd seed. Hikaru had the preceding tournament, he didn't do as well. I believe he was knocked out before the preliminary stage to qualify. That was 2 tournaments ago. But Magnus is constantly at the top, and I mean, look, this is a fight or a match that you could see so many times, and I'm so glad we're getting it again. Kudos to Mamediyarov and Aranyan for the crazy matches, the close matches for Mamediyarov. You know, Aronian ran into Magnus Carlsen. What are you going to do? But they will play for 3rd place. And ladies and gentlemen, as always, it is an honor making these recaps for you. And if you made it this far in the video, you are amazing. I will see you tomorrow for the first day of the finals. Get out of here.